Ike Live, brought to you exclusively by Abu Garcia.
Hey everybody, how you doing? Hope you're having a wonderful day, night, afternoon, evening, wherever you're at. Hope everything's good. First things first, thank you guys for all the amazing comments. Keep them coming. If you have any questions or ideas for guests, please send them through. We're definitely taking a look at all those comments. Also, thank you for all the positive response for this new part of the show, Ike Live, on a little more 101 kind of thing, this 2.0 format. So appreciate all the kind words. It's been really fun. Been nice change of pace from the fraternity feel of the old show to this. It's been really nice. We've got a good one for you in just a minute here. My good friend Ish Monroe joining us. And we're going to talk about a lot of stuff, but we're going to start with his finish at Okeechobee just a couple weeks ago. Really good start to the season, but can't wait to have Ish on. Let me remind everybody, if you heard that intro, shout out to Abu Garcia, now sponsoring the podcast. Been with Abu forever. Go to abugarcia.com. Check out what they got going on. Brand new Ike series launching ICAST this year. I know you're excited about it. I am too. Also, Ike Foundation, we just had our scholarship banquet a few weeks ago, raised a ton of money for kids scholarships and kids fishing. And I appreciate all the support from everyone that came out or sponsored the event or donated or went into a raffle or all that stuff. It all helps. And I definitely appreciate that. Also, if you've got kids that want to go fishing, head on over to ikefoundation.org. Anywhere you're listening to this nationally, if you're in Hawaii, if you're in California, New Jersey, anywhere in between, go over there. We've got a way to help get kids fishing to help you out. So ikefoundation.org. Check them out. It's going to be good. All right. I want to get them on right now. I'm all messed up on time here because I got East Coast, West Coast time. I don't know. We got to, I think it's 6 something over there. Let's find out. Joining us now on Ike Live, Ish Monroe. Yo, Ish.
What's up?
First, what is 3 hour? 3 hours,
yes.
Right? All right. So you're like
6:05.
All right. So you're like dinner time, and I'm like bedtime. For a 51-year-old, 9 p.m. is bedtime. Is that embarrassing?
That's classic.
Is that embarrassing?
That is embarrassing.
Here's what's embarrassing about it, because we've known each other for a really long, really long time, and I can remember the nights of being young. And especially the nights of being young and single. And there were no 9 o'clock. Like 9 o'clock is when you like started getting ready to
get ready. You got ready. Yes.
Yeah. And now this. You know?
Yep. Bed by 9. I like it.
Bed by 9. I want to start. I mentioned it right before you came on. Good start this year, Ish. I know we talked about this on the phone after you're finished, but I wanted to mention it again, dude. Good start, good momentum.
Yes.
Are you happy with that finish? I looked at it and it was a good
going into the event. I was on what I call survival mode. I didn't feel really good about the way Lake Okeechobee was fishing because we literally had 5 spots that I would consider what I would call 4 to 5 acres of fishable water. And there was, once again, 5 of those. And so you had 225 boats, not including all the local pressure and the guides,
right,
crammed into these 5 areas. And so, and me, you know me, I hate fishing in crowds.
Yeah.
And so, but
I do
you will be proud of me. Day 2, for the first time in history, I broke out a spinning rod.
What?
Yes.
Holy smokes. Elizabeth, I'm coming.
and actually caught a limit.
Wow.
In about 30 minutes on a spinning rod.
Wow. That's incredible.
But that was after I had a 10-pounder in the boat too that I did not catch on a spinning rod.
Wow. 10-pounder floating around, but pulled the spinning rod out to stay competitive and to get your limit and all that stuff.
Well, it's a different focus. I have a couple of guys, Clark Ream and Andrew Upshaw, that we are kind of working together a little bit on this deal and talking back and forth. And it's funny. Me and Andrew actually ended up in the same area. Kind of like us. Me and you, we never talked about actual areas. We talked about patterns.
Yeah.
And if we happen to end up in the same area, it was okay because it wasn't like, oh, well, he found this spot or nothing else going. It was okay. We shared this pattern. We ended up on the same area. So Andrew was actually catching them on a chatterbait with a smaller trailer. He's like, dude, there's smaller trailer. Put on a smaller trailer. Start catching fish. Then he comes back and I'm like, dude, Cinco. He breaks out the Cinco. It's one of those things where you got to have a couple guys that you work really close to that won't lie to you and you won't lie to them. And it works out good for everybody. Clark had a good finish as well. He actually started out in a spot that me and him kind of were the only two guys I know to ever fish that area. And I went in there and practiced, didn't really like what I saw. He went in there on the basis of just getting his tournament started and had some good fish out of there. So he did great too.
Right.
But it's just one of those things. I will take, top 30 finishes. And the average last year was 57th place. If you finish 57th place or higher in every single event on the Elite Series or on the Bass Opens, you qualified for the Elite Series.
Wow.
And that's the goal. The goal.
Yep. Consistency. Don't have a bad one. 9 events long. It's a marathon.
Right.
It's not a short race. It's a marathon. Yeah, I agree. And like I said, I think it was a great finish for you. Even with the spinning rod in your hand, I think it was a great finish. Let me ask you this. I wanted to get into this. I had Scott Martin on, and of course Scott had a great tournament, caught some big bags. But even Scott said he said to me, he was like, "Man, this lake it's messed up right now." He said it was messed up.
Right. Yeah.
Tell me about that, because compare Okeechobee now, present day Okeechobee, to when you won years back. Are they even comparable?
Okay. They're not even close. So when I won in 2012, there was miles of water to fish. The whole shoal had bass on it. This year on the shoal, there was one dirty water spot that had some fish on it, one clean water spot that did not have any fish on it, and the rest of the shoal was done. And when I say spot, we're talking about a 200-yard span stretch. I would say 200 yards by 150 yards of dirty water, but the fish were there. And then the other spot was about a 100-yard stretch by 25 yards that was clean, but there were no bass there on the whole shoal.
That's crazy.
And so it was just one of those events where it was tough. And I chose for actually that place up there on the shoal where I didn't feel like there was going to be, they said where Scott was fishing, people counted 70 plus boats within basically a cast of each other. I'm not doing that. So I had Andrew and a couple other guys in my area, and we just kind of milled around and milked it for all it was worth. And, me and one or two other guys ended up faring pretty well there. And it was just, like I said, I was in survival mode and I survived, and I'm happy to survive. And like I said, the first tournament, you can lose it in the first tournament. You can't win it in the first tournament, but you can lose it in the first tournament. Yeah. I definitely didn't lose it. I set myself up to just be consistent the rest of the year.
Yeah, good finish. And it just blows me away hearing that from you, hearing it from Scott, seeing the social post. Like, when I close my eyes and want to think about Okeechobee, I like the Okeechobee when you won.
Yes, the Bass Factory. Bass Factory.
When Randall Tharp won in Monkey Box, when JT Kenny won, like flipping and like on giant bass and big rods and braid. Like, that's the Okeechobee I want. I don't want.
But there was a lot of giant bass. There was a lot of giant bass caught, but you saw. Yeah. But you did see Scott. Scott broke out a spinning rod and caught some big ones on a spinning rod. I caught him on the spinning rod. I mean, there was a lot of fish and a lot of guys out there throwing spinning rods. And, you know, that place, basically Harney Pond, right outside the canal, usually it has a bunch of reeds and grass. There's not a blade of grass in there at all.
That's incredible.
South Bay is no longer South Bay. It's open bay.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Lack of vegetation. Gone.
Lack of vegetation. It's gone. It's between the spraying and the combination of all the stuff coming out of the farms up there. The lake I think the lake's in danger. You're going from a top 10 fishery in the country to maybe make a top 100 fishery after the next few years, because a lot of those fish are going to get caught. A lot of those fish are going to die, and they're just not going to be, you know, the lake that it was because of the lack of grass and reeds and everything else.
Yeah. That's a shame. Hate to see that when a world-class fishery starts to head down the other way.
Me too.
Either way, though, great finish, Ish. A lot of good momentum. And here's the interesting thing. If you're watching or listening to this right now, you saw the list of EQ guys this year, guys fishing.
Yes,
dude, it's stout, like stout. Not just the young guys, Ish, but like the veterans, like the names coming back. Like,
remember when everybody was like trying to get, you know, the top guys from FLW and the top guys from Bass together and fish kind of against each other to see how they're fair? That's what the new EQs are. You've got the Mike Sermons of the world, you know, the Brandon McMillans, you know, guys who have won tournaments and done really well in the FLW tour. And then you got past elite series guys, you know, you got the Mike McClellans and, you know, there's B Height. The list goes on and on. Pace, classic champion, Cliff Pace, you know?
Yeah. Crazy.
Russ Lane, Mike McClellan, Randall Tharp. Oh, just the list goes on. I mean,
goes on. It's crazy. I looked at that list and I was sort of blown away by the vastness of the names on that list. Now I'm going to ask something, and I know the answer to it, but I want to ask this. Now that you're going on second year, you're going on your second season fishing the EQs and fishing bass. Are you glad you went back to bass? Are you glad you're fishing back at bass versus MLF?
Yes.
You want to talk about that? Why?
So you know, this is one thing. So we show up at our briefing, our meeting, and it's the only meeting we're going to have this year. But you come and you check in. You see the camaraderie. You see the faces that you know from bass and the ones you don't know, but everybody has a smile on their face and everybody's happy and they're happy to be there. And, you know, other places, they're not so happy. They're angry. And, you know, I remember my last year on tour, I didn't even show up to a single meeting all year long because I didn't want to go there because I didn't want to be angry before the first tournament. And now everybody's there. They're shaking hands and they're hugging each other. And it's just like the group of guys that, you know, it's like Boy Scout camp all over again.
Yeah, I agree, dude. I couldn't agree with you more. Like, I've had my last 2 years back at the elites, I've had a bad season and a very mediocre season. And even though I'm not fishing good, dude, I still feel great. Yeah, I feel great. There's not like this cloud of
gloom.
Yeah, like I had this cloud over me on the other tour where I was just like depressed, sort of like sad, like depressed. I can't really explain it, but yes, I agree with you 100%. Not to take away the other reasons too. Like, dude, I'm a numbers guy. You know that. Like, dude, I'm a 1 to 2 pounder. I could 1 to 2 pound them to death. The numbers format fits me better, but Ish, I missed sticking them in the well. I'm being honest with you. And I know that there's conservation guys listening to this right now that are probably pissed or whatever. But dude, I missed putting them in the well. I missed holding them up. I missed swinging them in the boat, letting them flop on the carpet. I missed that. You know?
when you bring a 10-pounder to the scale and the oohs and ahs and ohs, you can't replace that. Even if you caught one on television, people are like, oh, cool, I'll watch you catch that one. But when you bring it into the scales and everybody's like, oh my God, and they're all freaked out. Like, can I see that thing? And pictures and over again, so many photos of that fish. There's nothing to replace that feeling.
Yeah.
And so I'm glad to be fishing for 5 again. I really like the format. I get to fish the way I want to fish. I can go pick up the big rod all day long if I want to. But I also know, once again, what it's going to take to qualify. And it is going to take a spinning rod a lot this year to qualify. I mean, especially when we head up north and you get to fish St. Clair, you know how that goes. You better have a freaking spinning rod in your hand. You can catch some cranking, but 225 guys, a lot of that stuff's going to go away. And learning the live scope, I spent the time with Active Target 2, just like you have from Lawrence, spending the time out there on the water, using it. And I love using it now. And I have, I'm on the side of, these guys need to stop. They really honestly need to stop. You know me. If I had my choice, would I fish without, Active Target? Probably not. I would have said before, but now it's a very important tool, and it's helped me to identify how fish are actually biting and how they're relating to structure versus everybody goes, oh, it's the end all. If you look at it, the same guys that are using Scott Martin would have probably won that tournament with or without using Active Target.
Right. Yeah. Yep. I agree. It's just a tool. Yeah. I mean, that's a whole nother podcast in itself. And I'm so sick of talking about it, but I agree with what you're saying, which is don't fight it. It's a technology change, accept it, and then integrate it into the way that you fish. Right.
It'll help you catch more fish.
Right.
It will help you catch, and that's what we love about fishing is we're always looking for that next big thing that's going to help you catch more fish, and that's what Active Target is.
I agree 100%. I want to ask you this one, and I'm asking you this. This is a little selfish motivation on why I want to ask you this, and it's because I've been asked this question myself, and I would give an honest answer. And, basically,
yes, I would. Yes, the answer is yes. And would I do it all over again? No, that I would never left. I would have never left Bass.
I know. Well, here's the exact question. That is the question. Okay. It's funny. You knew the question, but there's a more exact question. And the question is, when did you know that MLF was sort of going in the wrong direction? Like, do you have a moment in your mind that you can remember and said, this is the moment I knew stuff was going bad? Like, is there one moment, or was it just a gradual?
Are we running the bus, the train, or what? I mean, because I could throw a whole lot of people underneath the bus.
No, and I don't want to do that.
Hey, you know me, I don't care, but I just want to make sure that you're okay. If you got security, because it's the truth. The moment, and I have to put this out there, is the moment when they got up there and asked about working the Bassmaster Classic. And those guys came out, and there was a bunch of guys said, I don't want to work the Classic. And I remember me and you looked at each other like, this is the end. Like,
dude, I remember it like it was yesterday. Ish, I literally, I think I was drinking something like a water. It wasn't a beer. I was drinking like a water at the registration, like that. I was just drinking like that. And I remember it like it was yesterday. I remember Boyd getting up there, and I don't remember the exact words, but he was saying that, we're going to conflict with the Classic this year, and we don't want you guys to go to the Classic this year because they're our competitor.
Right.
And I looked at you and you looked at me, and I was like, I almost choked.
Right. No, it was bad.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then it was to the point where they wanted to fine me for going to the Classic and working. And I told them, I said, do you really, really want that storm? Because I'll bring it. Because how bad is it that you guys talked about you're about the anglers and you're for the anglers, but yet it's funny because my sponsors truthfully would almost rather me work the classic than fish the classic.
Right.
If I'm going to fish the classic and win, then great. They want me to go fish.
Right.
But if I'm not going to win the classic, they want me there in the booth working because
way more valuable. Way more
value.
Yeah.
You get to interact with fans, which I love interacting with the fans, shaking hands and taking photos and talking to kids. Just like you, I still tell people this story is I remember that classic where they were actually trying to usher you on and you told them no because there was this line of kids that wanted your autograph and they were getting mad at you and you're just like, I'm not leaving. What are you going to do?
Oh, yeah.
And that was you was so important to sign every single kid's autograph. And that meant a lot. And to me, I was like, that's super cool. And you just always think that, where we came from in that growing up urban area to have fishing as our outlet to keep us away from a lot of stuff. We wanted those same kids to have that same opportunity.
Big time. Yeah. And I'd have to agree with you, Ish. That was probably my moment of clarity. That moment plus that whole year, just things unfolding to me in my mind. I'm like, man, this is not what I signed up for. This is not the direction that I thought it was going. So, regardless of whether you love MLF or hate MLF or somewhere in between, or you don't care, it's a reality for some guys where they realize that I don't belong here and I got to go back. And so I think you're seeing that with some of the guys, including myself.
A lot. You're going to see, and you're going to see a lot more. I mean, the thing about the changes and everything that they're doing is one thing about bass, and this is what I've gotten to learn about Chase Anderson over the last year and a half, is Chase puts a lot of thought process into something before he decides to do it. MLF, fly by night. Okay, well, we're going to do this. Oh, a day later, they didn't like it. We're going to change this. Chase looks at things and goes, okay, well, let's analyze this. Let's look at it. How's it going to benefit everybody? This is not one-sided for the organization. It's not one-sided for the anglers. We're going to do this to benefit both sides. And he did that this year with the EQs. He increased the entry fee a little bit, but also increased the payout by a lot. Then added an Angler of the Year payout so that some of these guys who are great fishermen who have an opportunity now to make some money to going into the Elite Series if they qualify. And that's the one thing that I'm seeing in the industry is a lot of these younger guys are coming in and they're struggling. One, because they're not really sure about how to understand the business, but two, I don't see the work ethic that they have like you and I used to have, when we first started working every single boat show, going to tackle dealers on a regular basis. I mean, those are the important things that they need to do to understand why these companies will pay you. They're not paying you for your fishing ability. Fishing ability is basically your justification for why people need to buy products. Well, he catches fish on this, so I want to throw what he's throwing. But the sponsors are paying you to go work at these events and sell their product. And I just think a lot of the younger guys need to understand that. And I think if we can relate that more into the college fishing scene, a lot more of these younger generation guys who are great fishermen can come into this and have longevity.
Yeah, that's crazy to me because it's funny. I'm glad you brought this topic up because honestly, Ish, I'll put you on the spot right now. You are one of the hardest working dudes, pro anglers that I've known. And I'm not just saying that because I'm your friend. And
I appreciate that. I
grew with you all those years. But dude, you work your ass off. Does it bother you that, and again, not naming any names, but does it bother you that there's these young anglers being very vocal, that they're disgruntled about the business side? They're mad that they're not getting sponsorships. They feel like they were lied to. Does that bother you, or how do you feel about that?
It initially it did, and that's why I kind of wrote that piece for Bassmaster. Like, the industry doesn't owe us nothing, and
Right.
I've got part 2 of that coming out. It did because I reached out to some of those anglers, and I tried to talk to them and give them an understanding of, they believe the industry lied to them. The industry never lied to you. The industry did not tell you everything you needed to know, but from a business perspective, you have to understand. Sales creates money.
Right.
The more product that you sell, the more money that there is available, and the more money that there is available, the more money you can get. And
Right.
and I'm a believer of, I call it the 10%. So if you want to make $100,000 from a company, you need to be able to sell $1 million worth of product that they weren't going to sell before, that they weren't going to sell on their own. You're going to create, I talk about this with, why I've been with Yamaha for so long and Skeeter, back with them again, is because we have dealerships that we can make connections and selling and moving product. And especially right now in these times when interest rates are higher and things are a little tough and people aren't spending the money. During COVID, you could sell ice to an Eskimo during COVID. But now you have to work hard. You have to tighten up. I mean, when you talk about 9 or 10% interest rates on $100,000 bass boat, that's a $1,500, $1,800 a month payment that a guy has to make. Versus back in the day when we started, we're talking a $300 to $400 a month payment for your bass boat.
Right.
And because the rates were lower. And so now these kids have to understand that, oh, okay, I go out there, I catch them. That gives you credibility and justification. But I also got to go work with these sponsors. When it comes time to the end of the year and you want to go be in a deer stand, but yet your boat dealership's calling you because they're doing a fall promo, you need to be at that promo and put the deer stand to the side.
Yeah.
I have other distractions in my life that I love, which is my wife. I love being with my wife. I love being at home. But she also understands that we've also got to work to continue our lifestyle, and it is super important. And so you just have to make time for all of it.
Yeah. Yeah, you do. You do. I love that, Ish. I've never heard that 10% theory that you just gave. Like, I never heard it said like that, but it makes so much sense when you break it down like that, right? Like, I think maybe a lot of the anglers don't realize that they can go out and hustle and work and sell that kind of money to get their 10% of that income.
And you got to think about it. Selling. If you go to a boat dealership and you bring 10 guys in there to buy boats, that's $1 million. Do you not think that they're going to give you a boat the next year if you continue to do that? Because they don't want to lose you, because they don't want you to sell some other brand. Right. When I go into talking with these companies, they ask, well, what do you bring to the table? And it's like, okay, well, I work with Fisherman's Warehouse, so we can get your product, and I do videos for them, so I'm going to sell your product that way. Oh, well, Yamaha, hey, I work really close with CNC Marine. We have 2 boat dealerships. I've worked with other dealers and brought in Yamaha and brought in Skeeter boats to those other dealerships. To them, that's value. Right. You going out and catching fish has no value, zero value. Because people see it and just go, oh, okay, well, he's only using that product because he's paid to do that. But then when you were actually running the product, talking about the product, selling the product, and then you catch fish, it all works together.
Yeah. Yeah. It to me, it just gets down to, there's a lot of different angles you can take, but to me, it gets down to work ethic and wanting to put in the work. And I think if you put in the work, I've seen it with you, then you get the reward. So if you're a young guy,
but you still have to catch fish. You still have to catch fish,
right? I'm not taking
credibility.
Half away, but the other half is you got to be willing to work. Put the work in, and it'll pay off.
A company would rather you go out there and sell their product than to go catch fish.
Right. I agree with that. I'm talking to you, and you're younger than me, but we're both now
2 years. That's not
years, right?
2 years.
Couple years. But we're the old guys.
Actually, wait a minute. You'll be 52 before I turn 50. So
right. Always be older. But for sure, we're more the veterans now on tour. And when I look back, it is such a different environment today, Ish. Than when we started. When you go back to when we were cutting our teeth in the mid 90s and getting on tour in the late 90s, it's such a different environment. More leagues, right? You got three big pro tours now. You've got the machine of social media. You've got the machine of digital content, and you've got influencers. You've got YouTube personalities. It's such a different world.
It is.
Knowing that, be honest, what do you think the state of the sport is today versus when you and I were entering this thing?
I guess I would take it as the seriousness of the industry. When we were started, it was business. It was seriousness.
Right.
Now it's kind of a joke because a guy goes to his farm pond and he catches 5-pounders out of his farm pond all day, and he looks like a hero on social media. But yet you throw that guy into a tournament scenario and he don't even catch a bass.
No. In most cases, I would say no.
Right. And I mean, there's a few that have done well and stuff. I'm really interested to see, some of the guys that qualified from last year, see how they do, against a different group of guys.
Yeah.
I still don't.
It's interesting though, because I want to just stop you for a second and jump back to it. But why is that? Because it's like, if I look at other professional sports, I don't really see that. Like, I don't see, somebody teaching baseball or batting or pitching that, is not a pro. That's, what I mean? Like, there's this.
Yeah, no. And then what that is once again, there's parents' money. A lot of these kids come up, parents' money. They've like, here, I'm going to buy you a boat. I'm going to buy you a truck, and I'm going to buy you all the best gear and go fishing. And that kid has all the stuff in the world, and then you mix in, oh, well, I'll get you this guide, or I'll get you this coach, or I'll get you this teacher to help you, and then obviously money stems money. So then that guy who knows his buddy who owns another business who's going to sponsor the kid, and so it's so easy with a little bit of money but when we started, you didn't grow up with a silver spoon. I didn't grow up with a silver spoon. Rojas didn't grow up with a silver spoon. Skeet didn't grow up with a silver spoon. A lot of guys that I know, when we were getting started, we didn't have it, but we made it. And then that was our work ethic that got us there, and our fishing ability. Where are you at? Like 5 million, 6 million in winnings now?
I don't know. Becky keeps those numbers hidden from me, so I don't know.
Well, why? Because she's still too busy spending it on Gucci.
Maybe, I don't know.
Her and Stella are at the Gucci shop.
Yeah, that's probably true.
I mean, I'm at 3 million in my career in winnings. Skeet's at close to 5 million. Rojas is at close to 3 million. Like, we grew up in a time and era that also, when I first started, entry fees were $9,000 for the top 150s.
Wow.
And now we're talking 58,000 or 53,000 or whatever it is.
Yeah. Yes, they are. And I get that. Here's what I don't get. I get that as time goes on, you're going to have increased fees and things are going to be more expensive. That's life. And you can look at that, the history of time, right? But why in today's world, 2024, our tournament winnings are down, but our entry fees are up? How's that possible?
Because the anglers allow it.
Because the anglers allow it. What
because
needs to change? What needs to change?
What needs to change is there needs to be some justification for being a pro, a true professional. You know, I know you've experienced, just like I've experienced it, where you tell people what you do for a living, and it's like, oh, well, I got a buddy who fishes for a living and this and that. And you're just like, okay, what is his real job? Well, he's also an insurance salesman, and he's a contractor, and he's this and he's that. And that's the difference. Like, you and I, fishing is our business. Being on tour is our business. We don't go to a regular 9 to 5 every single day. We get up in the morning, we're answering emails, answering phone calls, and we're looking at the next time we get to go fishing. Yeah. Because the next time we get to go is probably a tournament or probably practice.
Yep. You know, I agree. Well, here's the thing. I'm hopeful. That I think things will eventually get better. And I always like maybe use this as a crutch. Maybe it's not true, but I always say this, which is our sport's relatively young. You know, I've been watching this like documentary on have you seen it's great.
The cast is awesome.
I've been watching it. I've been making Vegas watch it because I want him to know the history of the sport. But you know, when I watch that, I'm like, man, our sport's young. You know, it's like we're basically from the mid 70s, and a lot of those other sports are old. So, you know, that gives me hope that things will come back around, and I think they will. And it's all relative to, you know, what all of a sudden how hard it is to actually make the Elite Series, how hard it is to technically be a true professional, and I think we're slowly getting our way back to it. Just because you see what's going on now, and all of a sudden it'll be back to, you're a professional. Well, do you fish the Bassmaster Elite Series? Well, no, I don't. Well, then you're not a professional because you're going to a regular job if you aren't a Elite Series guy, and that's what it used to be like. If you weren't fishing the top 150s, you were just a regular Joe Blow. There was very few guys out there, if they weren't guiding, that were fishing tournaments and being called true professionals. Right. I agree with that. Yeah, it's too blurred right now. It's too spread out, and it's too blurred. The lines are too blurred. I'm done talking about the show. I want to talk about more happy stuff, Ish.
Yes.
You mentioned it, and I got to ask. I already know the answer, but I got to ask. How is married life, Ish? How's married life?
Married life is good. Married life is great.
Good, isn't it? It's great.
It is fun. Yeah. I mean, you inspire me. John inspires me, and it's just one of those things now that I'm happy that I've done it, and it's a great time. And you know, sometimes men and women don't always get along, but overall, it's good.
That is awesome. And here's the other thing: you've got a spouse that actually like loves to fish. I've seen a lot of your posts on social media.
Yeah, she is all about the saltwater, and the saltwater boat is hers and not mine anymore. And she not this year's trip or last year's trip, but the year before trip, she caught a 275 yellowfin, which is one of the biggest yellowfin and stuff. So it's pretty awesome that she loves to fish, and she's the manager of Fisherman's Warehouse, and you know, it's kind of how we met, and things are really good.
That's awesome. I'm always kind of envious of spouses that like love to fish. Like Becky likes to fish, and we get to fish together every once in a while. But like after about 6 hours on the boat, she's kind of like, "Cool, peace, I'm good." You know what I mean?
Gucci. Where's the Gucci store?
Where's the Gucci outlet? Yeah, I'm ready to go to the Gucci outlet. But always kind of envious of that. I wonder if this conversation's come up since you've been married. Have you guys ever considered, like even for a minute, have you guys ever considered relocating? And before you answer this, you know, if you're watching or listening, a lot of your favorite West Coast anglers over the years have relocated, right? You know, the list goes on and on of guys, Justin Lucas, Aaron Martins, you know, just a lot of guys that went east. But have you guys ever considered that?
We have not considered relocating because we love saltwater fishing too much. I mean, it's to take her bass fishing is pretty much like, all right, honey, let me twist your arm a little bit to take you bass fishing. But if I say let's go halibut fishing or tuna fishing or lingcod fishing with swim baits, I mean, which you've done too, it's why would you go bass fishing when you can go do that?
Listen. You don't have to convince me of that. I totally get that. I totally get that. But here's the thing: I don't think we have maybe not the quality and depth of species that you guys have, but we have decent saltwater fishing on the East Coast. It's okay.
Yeah, but you have snow where you live and ice, and my husky would love that because she's made for that. But the rest of us, we like the warmer weather, the warm temperatures. Shorts and flip flops, pretty much. There was a topwater bite going on the lakes in December of this year because the weather was still so good, water temperature 58, 59 degrees, and they're eating top water. And so relocating is really hard. California isn't the greatest state to live in, and there's a lot of drama and controversy here, but when you take away that stuff and you look at the finer things, is we've got friends in San Diego we can go tuna fishing with pretty much anytime we want. We can go hop into the bay and go catch halibut and lingcod pretty much anytime we want. And then we have some of the best bass lakes in the country. Clear Lake's a phenomenal lake. Shasta, Oroville, New Melones, Don Pedro, they all have world records in them. And so it's really hard to leave that to go to another state. I looked at places like Gunnersville back in the day, but do you really want to go fish against 700 boats on a weekday and 2,000 boats on a weekend? I can go to Clear Lake every day. I can go to Clear Lake in April when the bite is on fire and they're catching 30-pound bags and see 10 boats on the lake the whole day.
Wow. That's crazy. Yeah. I agree with everything you said. And I think, I actually think it's a shame that the bigger tours don't consider going back there. Like, it's been years ish.
It's cost. I know we still have $5 something a gallon in gas, and the hotels, and then the states are not looking at, let's pay these organizations to come out because they're going to benefit us in the long run. They're looking at, they're going to expose the rules and regulations, and we need to just not have them out here. Right.
I think it's a shame because I love the fishing out there. By the way, I don't think I've ever. I didn't have this in my notes, but I wanted to bring it up because as you were talking about those different fisheries, I was reminiscing on the experiences that we've had in California fishing together. And listen. We've had some good ones, dude. I've had a chance to share the boat with you out there. And we've fished, swim bait lakes to finesse lakes, to the California Delta. And something really crazy, scary, unique, bizarre happened on a trip with you when I was at, let me back up.
You talking about the pre-practice?
Pre-practice. Let me back up, and then I'm going to throw it to you because I think it might be better coming from you. So this is back when the tour, the elites, or what it might not have been the elites back then. Long time ago.
The elites, maybe a long time ago. Many time ago.
We knew we were coming to the Delta, and so before it cut off, and this was back in the day, so there weren't as many rules as in place, but back in the day, you said, man, you've never been to the Delta? You said, come out. And I said, I'm not. And I remember you saying, like, I don't have my boat. I sold my boat already, but I'll borrow my dad's boat and we won't even fish. I'll just run you around so you get an idea of the layout. And I'm like, hell yeah. I'm like, I get to come out. I'll hang out with Ish for a few days, just chilling. We'll ride around for a day. I'll get the layout and it'll be great. And so it was great and got to hang out, and we did this trip, and we looked all around. Dude, you showed me the entire layout of Delta. And this is, I think, December, right? It's probably November, December.
It was cold.
It was cold. And we were coming back, and then I'll give it to you. And I was driving the boat.
You were driving the boat. And I just remember hitting a little bump. And I look over in the driver's seat, and you're nowhere to be found.
Gone.
gone. Like he's in the lake. I look back and there's Mike waving his hands. He's in the lake,
blown out of the boat.
Yes, but we also almost got killed on that trip by Becky, because the second day when we didn't go fishing, we told her that you fell out of the boat again. She was so mad.
She wanted to kill us. Oh yeah, she wanted to kill us.
She's like, "Yeah, I will kill all of you." And I remember her saying that.
Dude,
So that was just the good old times.
That was a crazy experience. That was the one and only time. Let me knock on wood. This whole thing's made of wood in here. I hope I never get ejected out of the boat again.
But it wasn't even like it was a big bump or anything. It was like boom, boom.
It was
like we just bumped some hyacinth or something.
Yeah, it was a floater, and I just kind of went to avoid it, and the foot of the outboard impacted that floater,
right?
And it just that shift just was enough to put me out, you know?
Well, I mean, you weigh $105, Mike. So
back then I did. I don't now.
Yeah.
Back then I did. And let me tell you, if you're watching or listening, we weren't even going super fast. We're probably going 40, 50 miles.
Not even, yeah.
Maybe not even. Maybe let's call it 40 miles an hour. Water hurts at 40 miles an hour. Let me tell you, it really.
Yeah.
Do you remember it blew my shoes off? We couldn't find my sneakers.
Yes.
You pulled me out of the river, and we couldn't find my sneakers.
Yeah, that was hilarious. The good times.
The good old days. All right, I've got just a couple more things, Ish.
Right.
This one I have to ask, because every time I post something or every time it comes up, Ish is coming on the show. Ish is going to be on Ike Live. Ish is coming on. There's one comment that always comes up. That always comes up. And
here we go.
It's funny to me, so I want to address it. And I at this point now, I call it the Great Frog Debate, and it's basically, in my mind, I know the answer to it because I think it's you. But who is the best frog fisherman? And let me say that you've got Cliff Crochet with his hand up. You've got Dean Rojas with his hand up. You've got
Jason Christie now.
Jason Christie with his hand up, waving it. Talk about the Great Frog Debate, because I think it's you. I think you're the best.
Honestly, I believe it's me, because I tell Dean all the time that I've won more than him with a frog, like winning. He's cashed more checks than I have, but I've won more tournaments with the frog than he has. Cliff has never won. Christie still has the biggest bass I've ever seen on a frog on television, which was that 10-pounder.
Giant.
But I'm going to take me just because I won the most, and I've got a rod with my name on it. It's frog. I got a bait with my name on it, and it is what it is. I'm the best.
Hell yeah. I would agree with that. Listen, I'm biased because a lot of the frog fishing that I know, I didn't learn on Bass University or watch video. I got to fish with you and watch you. So yeah. I'm going to give it to you on that one. Speaking of good frog fishermen, though, this was, I want to get your thoughts on this. This just came out, like literally, I want to say less than a week ago. Announcement was made for the 2024 Bass Fishing Hall of Fame nominees. And I think there's 8 or 10 guys that were nominated. And then, of course, there's a selection process now that'll happen. But I wanted to throw these 3 names at you. And I thought it was, I think it's really cool, these names, these particular 3 names. They're all great. Right. Listen, if you get nominated, you deserve to be there, right? But 2 of the guys on that list, Ish, West Coast guys, Skeet Reese, Don Avino on that list. Pretty incredible. Okay. I think it's awesome. And then, speaking of frog fishermen, one of the earliest guys I remember, Alfred Williams on the list for Hall of Fame. Talk about that. What do some of those names mean to you? What are the West Coast guys?
Alfred definitely, me, I don't ever get into the whole kind of what I call the racial side of things when it comes to fishing. But he was the first African-American that you saw on Bassmasters besides Pooley. and but he was fishing, and
Yep.
Alfred was fishing, and Alfred made the Bassmaster Classic. He did through the Federation, which how hard that is,
dude. The hardest.
Yeah, people think that the Federation, you qualify through the Federation. No, the Federation is way harder than the Elites. Federation is way harder than the Opens. The Federation is the hardest way to actually qualify for the Bassmaster Classic.
Yeah.
And I tried. I never did it. You've done it. Polnick's done it, and a handful of others. But Alfred definitely deserves to be in that Hall of Fame. I mean, he's the guy who took frog fishing to the next level and was fishing it on tour.
Dude, it's amazing because I remember like my first memories as a fan of the sport were Alfred Williams and Dusty Pine fishing frogs. And I remember like reading or watching TNN or whatever and seeing these guys do it. And dude, my eyes were so big because
Glued.
like I was unbelievably blown away because I remember like seeing. Back in the day on the East Coast, we had a couple sporting goods stores and, like a couple big box stores. Like one was called Best. Of course, Kmart had fishing stuff back then. And I remember seeing like snag proof frogs. And I remember looking at them like laughing, like, they ain't never going to catch a fish. And then I'm watching these guys. I'm watching Alfred Williams or Dusty catch these fish. Dude, I'm blown away, dude.
Yes.
And this is like the early 80s. I'm just blown away.
And then looking at the other two on the list, Skeet Reese. Skeet, once again, won the Classic, won Angler of the Year, and he was the one guy that pushed Kevin to his limits.
Right.
Kevin
multiple times.
Yeah. Kevin and Skeet, and we make jokes and call Skeet Captain America because he had the blonde spiked hair and the whole nine, and he was flashy, but. He definitely deserves to be on there because Skeet, like I said, he's probably, I would say, third in total overall winnings because Kevin being first, Dudley being second, and I think Skeet's third on that list.
Yep.
And so anytime you're in the top 5 of all time money winnings on anywhere, you deserve to be in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
And then Don Ivino was the innovator of finesse fishing. He took the doodle shake slide to the next level. The dude probably forgotten more about Lowrance electronics than most of us know.
Right.
And so he definitely deserves. I mean, he's the sonar guru guy who's, he's won multiple tournaments out here on the West Coast, and they're lucky that he didn't take his skills back east.
Right. It's amazing. Like Don, I remember. This is definitely going to date me, Ish, but I remember going to a Bass University seminar in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, when I was like, Shama, I'm not kidding. I was like 20, maybe like 20, 19, 20. And Don was one of the speakers one of the days. And dude, I was like, he had a way about him of teaching that was really good, but he's talking about little 4-inch worms and brass and glass, spinning rod with 4-pound monofilament and this and that. And I'm like, what the hell is going on here?
Well, you got to realize back then, 4-pound monofilament, 4-pound Maxima was like 6 or 8 pound everything else.
Right.
And so that's what those guys were using. But Don was, let me tell you something, son. Let me tell you something, kid. I got something for you. The doodle shake and slide. I've been doing that before you when you were in diapers.
How many bags of brass and glass did he sell back then?
A million. I still have brass and glass because of that man right there. I have Ivino worms. Oh
glass.
yeah. Ivino worms. The Splash It. Rick Clunn had the Rico, and Don Ivino had the Splash It.
Yeah, that's crazy, man. The good old days. And I did want to mention this with those two guys, which I think is important. Is that these are like West Coast guys, right? These aren't like West Coast guys that spent 5 years of their life in the West Coast and then lived somewhere else the rest of their life. These are actual West Coast
True
dudes,
West Coast guys. Yeah.
heart and soul, dude. That I like that, and that's got to feel good just for you being a West Coast guy because, and I've said this on this show before, dude. I always felt like guys in the Northeast, guys on the West Coast, different but the same, and I've always felt like we've always got the shaft because like we're disqualified because oh he's a California guy or he's a jerk, like they don't count.
Right.
And I do you feel like that? Do you feel like this is like a little vindication of
I mean, if you're from Alabama, Tennessee, Texas, Mississippi, Georgia, you are part of the crew. But yeah, you're from the West Coast or you're from freaking Northeast, yeah, you're not a part of the crew. You're the anti
crew. Different.
Anti crew.
Well, I thought it was interesting.
You know what? Everybody's wearing Adidas. You were wearing Kicks.
Oh, it's so great. I always wondered that, Ish, because like we had, even though we grew up in different parts of the country, we had very similar backgrounds growing up. You know, from a family perspective, a life perspective, music, all that stuff. How many like anglers out there do you think are true hip hop heads and hardcore bass heads at the same time? You think it's in the thousands? You think it's in the millions? You think it's like 60?
I think it's like, honestly, I think it's a few hundred. I mean, there's what I call the pretenders who listen to a lot of just the mainstream hip hop. But you know, we go back in the day listening to the hardcore b-boy music. You know, it was all about the breakdancing. And guys about it now, it just seemed like they're into the Drake and the 2 Chainz and all the stuff that's, you know, kind of what I call mainstream. But they know nothing about the old days of the Beastie Boys. And, you know, Beasties were somewhat mainstream, but really not. Right. Those dudes were just they were different. They were special, and that's why they were accepted.
Yeah, I think it's awesome, Ish, that like you still do it to this day, and like it's been going on for like 15 years. Like every once in a while, out of the blue, I'll get a text from you, and it's a breaking video of like these dudes breaking in 2024 that are doing shit that's unbelievable.
Yeah, like there's no. Like, yeah, you're like, how? They're gonna actually break something of their own with the stuff that they do. Yeah,
that's incredible. Don't stop sending those videos, by the way. I love getting those videos. And here's the other thing: this was hard for me to swallow. Not that I was there from the movement from the very beginning, but in 2023, hip hop turned 50. As a culture, as a music movement, it was 50 years old in 2023. Dude, if that doesn't make you feel old.
Yeah, but that's, you know, so I was kind of, you know, they keep talking about that, but honestly, I think that's when they just wanted to claim it, because I've been listening to a lot of James Brown, and dude, you hear so many styles of rappers that they basically James Brown. They took it from James, and he was back in the 50s, 60s, you know. And so you can say that hip hop's a lot older than that when he calls himself the original rapper.
Right.
You know, and I just that's why I said hip hop's a lot older than what we really think. Is just it became mainstream according to them 50 years ago.
Yeah. I'd agree with that. Ish, I got one more thing to say. I'm going to let you go. I appreciate you coming on. And it relates to the Hall of Fame. One of the qualifications that you have to get in that thing is you have to be 50 years old or older to get nominated and to get into the Hall of Fame. And I'm going to say it right now on the show. I'm going to make a prediction right now that when you turn 50, the very next eligible year after you turn 50, you will be nominated for the Hall of Fame.
I don't think I'm ready. I don't honestly. I still
I know. I know it's going to happen. I am telling you, it's going to happen.
I want some more accolades. I want that classic trophy. I want the AOY trophy before I want more. Then you can give me the Hall of Fame, because Hall of Fame to me sounds like retirement. I don't want to sound like it's retirement.
I know. Yeah, it's strange. It does. It almost feels like a death sentence, and when it comes to like not doing anything else in the sport, right? Because you've accomplished all this great stuff. Oh, we're done with you now, and you're like, no,
I'm not done. Right? I got more.
I want to keep winning. I want to keep doing stuff. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, you will get in though eventually, and I'm telling you, not just as a friend. I'm telling you, you've done a lot for the sport. And you will.
Let me win the classic first, then I'll take it.
All right. Well, that's a deal. So, Ish, thanks for coming on, and
no problem. Anytime.
And great luck in the EQs. I hope you make it back. I would love to get a chance to room with you again before my career's over. So,
you and Johnny Cruz
getting the old crew back.
The old crew back. Yeah. I said that in front of like John's roommates now, and they looked at me like, wait, what are you breaking up our gang? I'm like, hell yeah.
The minute Ish qualifies, Johnny's gone. Johnny's
gone. Out. Cool.
It was so good catching up with you. I appreciate it, Joe. And good luck the rest of the season. Just keep doing what you're doing. Steady Eddie.
Steady Eddie. I appreciate you too. Good luck out there.
All right, Ish. We'll see you.
All right. Later.
There you have it, everybody. Ish Monroe. Always awesome having Ish on this podcast. I would tell you that Ish is probably right up there with the guy or the person we've had on the show the most. I'd have to go back. And consult Becky and Brian the Carpenter, but I would say Ish is probably 10, maybe over 10 times on Ike Live over the years. And that's pretty stout. So not just a friend of mine, but a great fisherman, a hard worker, great business guy, and just an all-around good dude. I hope you enjoyed that. Let me remind you, you are watching Ike Live 2.0. This is the up close and personal version of the podcast. And I hope you're liking what you're listening to and watching. If you've got questions or comments, leave them down below. You're going to see a section for comments. Please, ideas, guest ideas, questions, leave them below. We want to hear from you for sure. Big shout out to the supporters of the show. Of course, the Ike Foundation. If you want to help get kids fishing, if you have kids in your area and you want to learn more about how you could get those kids fishing, head on over to the IkeFoundation.org. Also, Abu Garcia, man, they make some amazing rods and reels, from bank fishing and cities all the way to hardcore tournament angling. Abu has a rod and reel for you. Head over to abugarcia.com. And then last but not least, they're going to have a great guest on next show. Keep your ears and eyes out for Andy Morgan joining us on the next program, and can't wait to have Andy on to catch up with him. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I know I did. We're going to see you on the next show. Have a good one. Bye.
Do you fish for excitement? Do you fish for passion? Do you fish to get outside? Or do you fish to win? Abu Garcia for life. Right now where we're standing, we're in Camden, New Jersey.
Yeah.
Philadelphia is right there. This is the concrete jungle. And, a lot of those kids, as they grow up, they don't fish. It's interesting because they're surrounded by water. The Delaware River, the Schuylkill, ponds, city park lakes. But they don't have the influence to cast, to fish, to have a rod and reel. And that became our focus, you know, is to target kids in what we call non-traditional areas, you know, urban areas, city centers, where the population's high, and let these kids have an experience. You know, it's amazing. I mean, some of the experiences we've had, whether it's Central Park in New York City, here in Camden, other parts of the country, even just casting.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable to see it, isn't it?
Yes.
It's unbelievable.
Yes.
And you know, you see these kids have this experience they've never had, and they light up, you know? The big thing, I think, for the Ike Foundation is we're not saying we want all these kids to become professional anglers.
Yeah.
It'd be great if some of them did, but we want them to have that fishing experience because it ties them to so many other positive things. The outdoors, nature, conservation. Ecology, you know, all these amazing things in life that maybe they wouldn't have been exposed to any other way. We're trying to help with that. So it's important. It's important for us.
Yeah.
We're proud of it.
I subscribe to Bass U TV, and so should you. Great place to learn about anything you want to know about bass fishing.
You get it at Bass U. We got the best of the best.
I'm not just an instructor, I'm a subscriber.
I'm John Cruz, and I am a subscriber.
You can always learn, and watching Bass U is definitely helps with that. It's something that I like to do, and it's definitely something that you need to do.
If I'm still learning, you should be too.
Subscribe to Bass U because you'll learn how to catch a lot more fish.
Ike Live, brought to you exclusively by Abu Garcia.